Welcome to the Puzzle of Us podcast, where we are helping you pick up the broken pieces of life, love, and marriage and help you feel whole again. I'm your host, Chelsea Petersen, where I have over a decade of experience as a marriage and family therapist and a lot of expertise in helping people, both from individuals, couples, and families in the Cache Valley area. And I want to bring that expertise to you. Today's topic is going to be why go to couples therapy, and we're going to dive into that. So without further ado, let's get started on our topic today. A lot of people ask me, when do we know how to go? When should we go to couples counseling? A lot of people come, unfortunately, when they have hit kind of a roadblock. And that's great. That's fantastic. I love it when anybody comes to counseling that at any point. Sometimes when we get into those places where we've been really hurt by our partner, it does become a little bit more difficult to be open to our partner's experience. And so if you wait until I really don't like my partner or they've really hurt me, sometimes therapy can be a little more difficult than energizing. And so if you feel like couples therapy, if you've ever wondered or contemplated about going to couples therapy, do it. There is always something that you could learn. Much like I feel like most people should have a mental health therapist. Maybe you're not going once a week, but maybe you're checking in a couple times a year, maybe even every month, maybe even 6 times a year. It doesn't matter. It's some person that you trust that can know you and can know, okay, yeah, things are a little off for you. Let's help you work to improve them. Maybe even someone beyond family members and friends. As much as we love them and we do want to hear their opinion, sometimes it's a little more difficult and we're a little more open to people who have a professional lens and see this a little more often. So I would highly encourage you, as a side note, if you do not have your own individual therapist, that you potentially look at finding one. Much like that, though, couples counseling can be very similar. Your relationship, for most people, is the most important thing in your life. Yet how much time do people spend dedicating to making their relationship better after they're married or fully committed to each other? There's research out there that the decline, before marriage, we spend a ton of time, kind of, if you want to say meaningless time, but I say very important time for your relationship, just being together. Not necessarily Netflix and chilling, not necessarily just making out, not necessarily just for intimacy purposes, but we just spend time talking, getting to know each other, laughing together. When you talk to people about all the dates that they used to go on, whether you were in high school or college, but the fun that you used to have, oftentimes when people get married, that goes away. And so people just really, life gets busy. The individuals in a partnership take on other commitments. Potentially children come into the picture, and life gets difficult to try and prioritize your relationship. And so couples therapy is a great way that you could do that. It can act as a check-in. Again, it doesn't have to be a weekly check-in, but it can act as a check-in with a kind of third person mediator of, hey, how are we really doing? How is our relationship? Because I care about our relationship enough that I am willing to come to therapy and make it better. Again, oftentimes the stigma that I often hear is that, oh, you're going to couples counseling? I didn't know you guys were struggling. I didn't know you guys were almost getting divorced, is oftentimes what I hear people have heard from their family and friends when they do come to couples therapy. And now, again, some of them are on close to that line, but many people are just, they're okay in their relationship, but maybe some things aren't great. again, if you can find a way to talk about them outside of therapy, sure, but most of the time that doesn't get prioritized. And so therapy is a good way to kind of hold you accountable for addressing issues in your relationship. It helps with communication. It helps with just communication styles, learning about yourself. It helps both of you be reflective, self aware, which I feel like is one of the harder things that people struggle with, right? If we were all more self aware and aware of our own actions and aware of how they're hurting other people or aware of why we're doing what we're doing, if we could all be more self aware, I think there would be less pain in the world sometimes. And so that's a great couples therapy, even when you're in a good spot, is a good place to be. What we find happen, or when kind of things go wrong in relationships, is when our protective parts really get really high, almost like building a wall, right? Like if you think of a protective part and you think of, every person is like a castle, right? And in that castle we build these fortresses, right? And in a great relationship we sort of have two connected castles, and they've got like a moat around them and a wall around the castle together. We're building this kingdom, right? And oftentimes when our partner hurts us or our partner gets us upset or frustrates us in some way, there's almost like this, in my head I imagine this imaginary wall like coming down in between two in between those castles, just kind of like hits the button and it's like whoop, joink right in between those two, and then the communication becomes harder. We have to like send secret messages through the tunnels, and then it becomes harder to communicate, less effective communication. I don't understand what you're saying, I interpret it this way. That's when things really get kind of tricky. And so when those protective walls come up, we know that communication gets harder. It gets harder to respond with openness and curiosity with other people or with our partner. And so if you find yourself doing that, even though it's not like I really don't like my partner right now, or we're really considering divorce, if that's like, there's moments like that, that's a fabulous time to come in to therapy for your relationship, because at that point you still love each other, you still like each other, you still want to be connected inside the same moat, with building the same kingdom with your partner. And so if you can do that, if you can say, hey, if you can recognize like these parts of our relationship aren't working for me, that's when my protective wall goes down. I'm kind of finding myself protecting myself against you. That is a fantastic time to come to counseling, because we can help you. Couples counseling, a good couples counselor, and at Cash Valley Counseling, we're all trained in EFT, which in my very humble opinion is the best couples therapy out there. There's a lot of research out there that actually can back that up as well. But at Cash Valley Counseling, we do EFT, and the whole focus is figuring out what's happening in those moments, both for yourself and for the partnership. And it helps you understand yourself better. It helps you understand what your partner's going through and why you do that thing and why you do it the way that you do it. And helps there create, again, moments of understanding, more openness, more communication. Those are, again, and that can be done way beyond, far, far before you're even hitting the divorce scene, or separation. So I encourage everybody, I think it's a great, great thing to come in and just have a check-in and say, how are we really doing? Yes, there are some moments that are kind of difficult. I have not met a relationship that doesn't have difficult moments. How do we navigate those moments a little bit differently? And how do we do that with openness, responsiveness, being engaged, rather than being in this protective, like, you don't understand me and there's no way I'm pulling my gate up, because there's fiery darts on the other side of that. And so thinking about that and using that analogy just kind of think about, when is it that maybe my gate goes down or my, protective parts come up, and I really don't, I want to turn away from my partner. I want to go away from them. I want to, again, not necessarily contemplating divorce. Oftentimes that is unfortunately where it leads, or our thoughts lead of like, do you even care about me? Do you even want to be in this relationship? Why are we even doing this? Very, very quickly turns there. But those moments are those moments that we really can help you navigate better. And the less often they're happening or the less intense they're happening, the more we can predict it and get ahead of it. Um, but not all is lost if things are intense for you. Some other benefits to couples counseling at any point is, again, just that conflict resolution, self-awareness. Again, it helps you feel more like a team. I often hear couples come in and talk about, I feel very alone in our relationship. I don't feel like I have a partner. And often when they do leave, they feel like I have more of a partner than I've ever had before. I want teamwork. I want to feel like I'm not the only one pulling any weight in our relationship. And there is no more beautiful feeling than feeling like you're in it together. You're doing your relationship together. You're putting time and effort and energy into your relationship together. And that is incredibly important. And couples therapy definitely can help you do that. Another point I just want to kind of bring up here to wrap this up for today is that, if there is no wrong time. A lot of times people talk about like premarital counseling or newlywed counseling, or when you've got teenagers, just different kind of phases. And there definitely is, and there is definitely going to be times during your relationship that are going to maybe be harder for your relationship. So some of those things that I want you to kind of think about as you're listening to this is, if I were to go, we health insurance, if you have health insurance, they encourage a yearly checkup every year, and just so that the doctor can kind of check on you, right? They encourage you to have a primary care physician so that they kind of have a baseline, so that if things start to go wrong, that they have something to compare it against. Oftentimes, couples counseling or a marriage therapist could be very much the same. They see you now, they see how close you are, they see what good in your relationship, and then we want to keep it there, right? People often talk about losing the fire, the passion that they had when they were first married. And sexually, yes, there's a part of that, but the closeness, the security, the feeling of team actually should continue to grow in your relationship. And if that's not happening, a marriage therapist or going to counseling specifically for your relationship can be an absolutely great way to find that baseline, find that normal. What is normal for us? What feels comfortable for us? And how do we feel more secure, more attached, more loved, more like we belong, more like we have a partner, more like we matter to each other? That's what couples counseling can do, because that's what relationships do for us. Relationships help us feel more alive, more human, more connected, more known. And the more known we feel, the more happier we are, the less depressed, less anxious, the more we can manage, the more we can handle. And oftentimes that starts with creating a more secure relationship in your committed relationship, whether it be a long-term committed relationship, a marriage, whatever that looks like for you. Making that more secure can help solve many individual problems as well. So I would encourage you, if you've ever considered going to counseling as a couple, do it. Find a couples therapist. Everyone should go. There's more you can learn about your partner. There's more you can learn about yourself. There's ways that you can show up differently for your partner that are more meaningful for your partner, because your relationship matters. There's no way it doesn't, or you wouldn't still be in it. And I know that your relationship will be better if you seek guidance, seek help in some way. You've been listening to the Puzzle of Us podcast, talking all about couples therapy and when should we go and why is it important, even if we're not on the brink of divorce or in crisis or in one of these crazy modes of life is crazy stressful and we never see each other. So I hope you've enjoyed it today. I'll catch you next time on the Puzzle of Us. I've been your host, Chelsea Petersen. We'll see you next time.